Welcome back to From the Shed End. Welcome back to another video. Hope you're all having a decent weekend so far. Obviously, there's no Premier League football this weekend. We have the Nations League keeping us busy. But before we get into today's video, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. You make sure you like this video. Leave your thoughts also in the comments as well about what we're going to discuss in today's video. Now, as I said, no Chelsea. So it feels like it was a weird period for Chelsea to get this international break. Yes, I know we didn't beat Nottingham Forest in the last game, but Enzo Maresca has drastically improved what has been a torrid and horrible couple of seasons for Chelsea under this new ownership. And we're slowly getting to see some brilliant stuff that Enzo Maresca and the players are trying to build together. It's taken a while, but there are some... One of the things, if you've ever watched his channel, I've always said that it's always difficult to understand what the process is, what the vision is, what the style of play is. And slowly, we're seeing moments of that from Enzo Maresca in terms of the performances on the pitch, tactically how we're trying to counterattack other teams. You know, we're seeing players now inverting correctly from full-back positions into the midfield. And we're seeing slowly signs, you know, obviously the playing out from the back is still an issue for the goalkeeper and the defenders, but there's a lot of things that are working well for Chelsea at the moment. It feels like Cole Palmer shifting into that role, number 10 role, as opposed to last season where he spent a lot of the time on the right side of the pitch. It does seem like we're getting to see a bit more of Cole Palmer. Jadon Sancho now coming in. We're seeing a lot more link-up play between Sancho and Cole Palmer as well. So me personally, I'm looking forward to the next couple of games, crucial games. We start that with Liverpool next weekend after the international break. Difficult game, very difficult to go to Anfield and get a result. We know that already. We have flashbacks of the Reece James handball and that the red card that changed the game for us, albeit that we did get a draw from that game. But we have to continue the momentum is what I would hope. Enzo Maresca is telling his players when they return back from international duty in a couple of days that they have to come back with the same momentum that they did before they left. And hopefully we can continue as we was before then. But look, it's going to be difficult. This is a critical part of the season. We hope that all of our players come back without any injuries from their respected nations, and we can continue and progress as we have been. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about on this video was how, for me personally, we have an issue in this squad. Me and Theo spoke about it on the podcast before, on our other videos that we've done. But I feel like we have certain players in the team that aren't performing as well as they should be. We can always talk about Nicholas Jackson. We can talk about Fofana, Badiashile, sometimes Zazie as well. But one of the players I want to focus on for this video especially is Enzo Fernandez. Because I feel with Enzo Fernandez, who is a really good player, we've seen signs of that last season. Some parts maybe for international, you know, for Argentina, obviously winning the big thing, the Copa America for Argentina in the summer. But since he's come back to Chelsea since then as well, I do feel that there's still this question mark over Enzo Fernandez. What's his best position? And where does he fit into Enzo Maresca's plans? Because I think at the moment, for me personally, we've got to see Enzo Fernandez play as a 10. We've got to see him play as the double pivot in that the left side of the 8 as an 8. And I don't see Enzo Fernandez's best qualities still. Remember, he's come through the Chelsea team on a very high fee. You know, there's an expectation that he was going to be, you know, the next big thing to come through at Chelsea. A lot of money's been spent on him. He's now been made the unofficial captain of Chelsea so far, with Reece James injured and Chilwell out of Maresca's plans. So I have question marks over Enzo Fernandez, not because I don't think he's got the ability to be a good player, but because I don't know what his abilities are, his best qualities are as a player. I don't know if he's good defensively, in terms of breaking up play. We see a lot of that with Moises Caicedo. And in terms of what we know Moises Caicedo can do in terms of breaking up the play in midfield and stopping those passages of play. But I don't see that from Enzo Fernandez. I also don't see it transitioning going forward either. I don't see what he does going forward. We did see some of that, as I said, under previous managers. You think back to Pochettino, and how he was in a more advanced role and getting those through balls forward and playing it through to what should have been our target man, you know, a striker that we still haven't really addressed that issue as well in terms of Nicholas Jackson and who should be playing ahead of him. But I don't see that enough from Enzo Fernandez. I don't see those through balls, those assists, those brilliant passes that he should be making. I don't see them enough. And I think before, when he was playing in Portugal, there was obviously a lot of praise for that. You know, the compilation videos were being made of him before he signed and how he was brilliant. And I had Chelsea, you know, YouTubers telling me he's the next best thing. We've signed a gem. You know, we fought off other clubs to get him. And I don't see it. And the season that he's in now, and I said this last season, the back end of last season, we can't treat Enzo Fernandez as a new player anymore. He's not a new player. He's been here for two and a half seasons now. And I think he's one of those players that we should really be seeing the qualities in him now. He should be the one that is the one that we rely on in that midfield. And he's not. You know, if you remember when he was injured, he was out with the hernia. We actually played better. The midfield seemed a bit more cohesive. And we saw a lot more balance in that midfield when Enzo Fernandez isn't in there. We also got to see that the first game of the season with Moises Caicedo and Romeo Lavia in the midfield. We didn't get the result we wanted on the day, but there was definitely more balance in the midfield without Enzo being in there. I don't know if he's the guy that can play the double pivot. He had the advanced role opening game of the season, but I personally don't think he's the guy that needs to be stood next to Moises Caicedo or Lavia. I think that's a partnership we need to see a bit more of. And I'm going to show you tactically now why I would personally go with Romeo Lavia and Moises Caicedo as my two going forward in that double pivot. So here's the lineup that I potentially would go with in our next game against Liverpool. This might change, obviously, subject to internationals and all the rest of it, but this is the squad I would actually go with. And I'm going to explain why I would go with this as my lineup for the next game and maybe for the foreseeable. Obviously, Reece James out injured. I think he's back in training now, but very unlikely he's going to be starting against Liverpool, and very likely we're going to get consistent run of games with him. But again, Chilwell on the left side. But we are seeing a lot of this now. Now, I would personally take out Enzo Fernandez. Obviously, again, this is albeit if Lavia is fit and we can get to see him back in Maresca's plans. But I look at this formation now, and I think this is the team I would go with. You know, Palmer in that 10 there, occupying what is arguably probably his best position for us as well. I would play with Nicholas Jackson. I'm going to be 100% honest. Christopher Nkunku. I think Nicholas Jackson should be dropped. Yes, he's scoring goals. Yes, his conversion rate of XG, if that's what you want to call it, and all that rest of the stat stuff that everyone loves, he's obviously improved that from last season, but he still misses so many chances that he should potentially be scoring. You go back to the game where Cole Palmer scored his 4 goals, beautiful ball over the top, and to Nicholas Jackson, and he rounds the goalkeeper and misses. You know, I think Christopher Nkunku doesn't miss those sort of chances. So I think we need to start playing the players that we think will get us the results that we need. We saw against Nottingham Forest how, the subs came on too late, didn't have a chance to affect the game. I think had we started with certain players in that team, like Nkunku, we would have potentially won that game against Nottingham Forest. But I want to talk about the team overall. So I think Sanchez would have to keep his role. I think he's Maresca's number one. But what I like about the fact that we're seeing a lot more under Maresca is the inverted player coming in and dropping into this role here. Leaves Colwell, Fofana, and Gusto. And what we are seeing sometimes as well, we're also seeing on the reverse side, Gusto dropping in. And then we're seeing Fofana to occupy the right side with Colwell when we're in possession of the ball. That is now freeing up a lot more of this energy here. You're seeing Sancho working his magic here. You're allowing us to overload the opposition's box with Neto coming in. Caicedo also part of that. And then you see more of this. I think when Enzo Fernandez is there, there's a worry of doing this with Enzo Fernandez occupying what Lavia is currently doing at the moment. You could even swap these two over and have Lavia go higher up, Caicedo dropping back, Gusto in support. And what you're also seeing under Maresca a lot more, and it's working effectively, is when we lose possession of the ball. And I notice this a lot with Forest as well. You're seeing a lot of this quick back in our shape. Cole Palmer almost sits here. Neto drops to about here. Sancho drops to about here. And then what is Jackson's role, but currently I would have Nkunku there, is dropping into that area there. And we're making it so tricky. And sometimes you'll get Caicedo here, you'll get Palmer just sitting just about there, Lavia there, making it really tricky, making it really tight for the opponents to try and make anything happen in our area of the half. But I think we have to start changing things going forward. I think Nkunku, for me, has to start as a number 9. I know it's not his natural position. But I think when you see the likes of Gusto making the overlap here for Neto, Palmer in the box, Nkunku likes to drive towards the front post, so Palmer will either be here or here. Sancho again. And again, you have the opportunity here with those players that you've put in. You've got the inverted players there as well if you want. So you can do it the other way around. You could have Gusto dropping in here as the inverted, Caicedo pushing up, and Neto the one driving the ball down that wing. And again, you have options. And I think Enzo, I don't see Enzo occupying this space often enough in the inverted. When it's inverted, he's not occupying the space. And I personally think he should be occupying this space here because he's got the quality. We know that. We've seen it against, I think, Villa. He's scored brilliant goals. Brilliant goals he scored for us. And I look at his goal, his stats for his goals. It should be a lot better. I looked at his touches from last season, where a lot of his touches were on the wide around here. He was picking up a lot of the balls here on the sort of wider areas under Pochettino. That's now changed. He's now more where Lavia is at the moment. He's more picking up a lot more of his possession, his touches of the ball here and gaining possession of the ball more as a left-sided number 8 for Chelsea at the moment. So I personally think, I'm not saying Enzo Fernandez is a bad player at all. I just think the way that we're playing at the moment with the inverted fullback, which is what we're seeing a lot more of, that's what Enzo Maresca's wanting of these players, it doesn't suit Enzo Fernandez playing. And I think the worry with that is there's a lot of trust gone into Enzo Fernandez, maybe from the board, maybe because he's one of the prized assets at the club. But he's definitely someone for me that I don't have question marks over Lavia because we got to see how well he can play, albeit very short-lived in terms of his performance against Manchester City. But he's up against one of the best in the Premier League. By doing that, we also know Moises Caicedo has arguably been one of our best midfielders this season. Very, very instrumental in that midfield. As I said, breaks up a lot of the play and stops a lot of the opponent's attacks as well. So I think we understand what Caicedo's role is. But can we say the same about Enzo Fernandez? Can we say the same about him going forwards or in a defensive aspect of his game? I don't think we can. I think we look at the two that we've got on the pitch here at the moment and we can give those two green ticks because we know what their roles are. For me personally, Cole Palmer would have to stay as the 10. I think we see a lot of debate about Cole Palmer, which is where he should be on the right or should he be as a number 10. For me personally, linking up with Sancho, we've seen it this season, especially I think it was against Brighton. We've seen how the link-up play between the two of them is as well. I want to see a lot more of Pedro Neto this season. I really do. Really harsh on João Felix because I think, again, he's come back to Chelsea and he does. I mean, I remember saying that the last time he was here on loan, the trickery from him, the only player at the time when we had him on loan that was really creative on the ball, wanting to make something happen. So I think it's really harsh to leave him out, but I don't see how you can drop Cole Palmer in the form that he's in. I think Pedro Neto, for me, I would prefer over Noni Madueke because I think with Noni Madueke, I mean, he's improved so much since we signed him, but I still think the final pass, the decisions that he makes or doesn't make correctly is what lets him down massively for Chelsea at the moment. I think some of the balls, Noni Madueke gets into these positions here, and he was doing it against Nottingham Forest. You've got two players, maybe one running in from the back stick as well. And rather than use any of those and whip a ball in, he's shooting. And sometimes Noni Madueke is here. There was a prime example against Nottingham Forest. He was around here, around his mark. And rather than use, at the time that it was Nicholas Jackson, rather than use them, he's shooting from really, really difficult angles. And I think that's his downfall. I think Pedro Neto in that role would utilize the space that he's able to run into. We're noticing a lot of teams at the moment that we've played so far playing such a high line. You know, we got to see it against Brighton, West Ham, I think was another one where the line was so high for us. So the likes of Sancho, the likes of Pedro Neto, the likes of Cole Palmer are having a luxury of space to run into. This is why I think if teams continue to play that way against us, Nkunku for me is the one that has to be playing in the number 9 position. I think he's going to be able to get more from the position that he's going to be playing, more goals, more assists as well. Let's not forget, you know, as a striker, you're also able to assist some of the other players as well. So I think we have to start utilizing the squad in the best way possible. Does that mean dropping the likes of Enzo Fernandez, who's been brought in for hundreds of millions of pounds? It might have to be, until we can find a formation or a tactic or a role that suits him. We have to hope that Lavia can stay fit, because I think he's going to be the missing piece. As I said, his performance against Man City showed us what he's capable of doing. And as I said before, for me, Moises Caicedo has been one of the most improved players under Chelsea in the last 12 months. So for me, he would have to be the player that we continue to utilize in that midfield. But I just think we have to be careful that we don't put players in a position just because of who they are. And I feel like we're doing that with Enzo Fernandez at the moment. I feel like with Nicholas Jackson, because there's almost a point to prove with him that he is actually a good striker, a good goal scorer. We're kind of not, you know, Christopher Nkunku scored a hat-trick, albeit against Barrow, but then was dropped for the next game. Now, personally, for me, I would love to have seen Nicholas Jackson against Nottingham Forest, because I think that would have been a game that potentially would have suited him. But, you know, I think Maresca has some good headaches in his squad. I just want to make sure that I hope he makes the right choices, especially for that Liverpool game, which I think is going to be our biggest test since Man City, since the opening game of the season that we've had this so far. So I think he has to make the right choices. And I think personally, this is a game that I would drop Enzo Fernandez for. And I would, if fit, I would play Romeo Lavia, Moises Caicedo, Nkunku in the 9, allow your fullbacks to invert as they need to, allow Neto the space, and allow Sancho on the left side to do the same. It's going to be a tricky game. We're going to do a proper match review on that. But I thought, international break, why not talk about Enzo Fernandez? Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Am I being too harsh? Am I completely wrong about Enzo Fernandez? Should he still be playing for Chelsea as a regular starter? He's been made captain in the absence of Reece James and Ben Chilwell. Or should he be dropped? And should we allow Romeo Lavia and Moises Caicedo to develop a relationship in the midfield and allow that partnership to flourish and hopefully bring us some more glory this season? Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and all of that stuff, and hit the Linktree link in the description as well. And we'll be back very soon with another podcast episode.